Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Guy of the Boxeo, a channel that specializes in offering insight regarding fights and events in the sport of boxing. It's the 11th hour. We know what we're all watching on Saturday, the last crescendo, one of the most stacked cards in the history of the sport. In recent years, definitely. And the news just keeps coming in. Things change, much like life, and we're all on the edge of our seat waiting for Saturday to happen. So let's get to it. Let's look at the main event, the bout for the unified light heavyweight championship. All four WBA, WBC, IBF, WBO light heavyweight belts between Artur Beterbiev versus Dmitry Bivol. So this is obviously a rematch between the two from October 2024. And Beterbiev is 21-0, Bivol is 23-1, the one being the defeat to Beterbiev. I personally thought in that first fight that Bivol did enough to win on a points scale, while those last few rounds were harrowing and definitely made a case for Beterbiev being in that fight. Like, I think personally, if it was a 15-rounder, Bivol wouldn't have survived. But Bivol, I think, did enough within the 12-round limit to win that fight. This fight, we all know it's a big deal, not just because of the two boxers involved, but also it's probably the most significant fight so far, at least title fight. Not money fights with Canelo or anybody else that generates more money, but title fight, because if not for a middleman or a middle person, middle organization like the people behind Riyadh season, this fight would still be talked about in fantasy booking because of all the obstacles that were there, different promoters, different networks, contractual disputes. Yeah, so a few years ago, this fight was not even thought about, right? The idea of Eddie Hearn working with Frank Warren or Bob Arum, and then the two networks like the Zone and ESPN working together. But here we are, and I think this is again a reminder of what Riyadh season has been doing for boxing in terms of providing the fights that everyone wants to see. So my take on this fight, in one sentence, I would say Beterbiev by TKO round 9. And here's why. While Bivol did enough to win that first fight, he did it on the skin of his teeth. We saw who was winning near the end of that fight, and it was getting concerning for sure, even for the most hardened Bivol fan. Despite that excellent use of high guard and movement in and out, lateral movement, and striking early and fast, it was getting to a point where you were wondering if he was going to make it out of those last couple of rounds. Now they both have an understanding of what the other can bring, and this is where I say Bivol has a mountain to climb because of a couple of things. One is I've always said from day one that Beterbiev stylistically is a terrible matchup for Bivol. One of the weaknesses of these in long distance fencing in and out types that you see in the ex-USSR, the Ukrainians, Russians, is somebody that can take their punches and keep coming forward, which is exactly what Beterbiev is. And on top of that, Beterbiev is very calculated with his punches. He does not throw mindlessly and does a lot of very strategic thinking in the ring. And it makes sense because most of these guys in the amateurs, whether they fought each other directly or not, they fought styles very similar on a regular basis in those minimum 250, 300 bouts you keep hearing people from the ex-USSR having before they go pro. So the familiarity is there, I believe, for both of them, and especially in the case of Beterbiev, who I feel has a style that is very tough for a lot of ex-USSR boxers to deal with. So that's one thing. The other thing that I also make a claim for is the styles that they use. While Bivol uses a fantastic style that's reminiscent of the ex-USSR period, in and out, straight punches, these movements, lateral, straight back and forth. It's a very consuming style, especially when you're bouncing a lot, which is what he does and he's capable of doing. And that's a question that I have because as a fighter gets older, the generally history has shown that unless he is able to keep that athletic style or adapts to a style that benefits his limitations, they often struggle as father time creeps in. While Bivol is not necessarily an old fighter, the question arises because his style takes up more energy than Beterbiev style, moving around, and moving around in and out, lateral, and then bouncing, as opposed to Beterbiev that's more flat-footed. Yes, he does move a bit, but he generally is more stationary and come forward style. So that is a big question that I have: the familiarity of each other now, the style, the in all honesty, stylistic favoritism towards Beterbiev, and how will Bivol keep him around or keep him off for 12 rounds or less? I mean, that's a big question in the tall order as it was in the first fight. He did it on the skin of his teeth, but can he do it again with a guy that supposedly does not have the leg injury that he had in the first fight, and then again the stylistic matchup, which I do believe favors Beterbiev. So that's my honest opinion. Beterbiev TKO round 9. Feel free to shoot any comments or suggestions. I'm always open to hearing other people's insights. And regardless of any differences, I hope you all enjoy tomorrow night's bouts. Take care.